अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, आप देख रहे हैं पावर शो में हूं अलीना शिगरी। नाज़रीन, फाइनेंशियल टाइम्स की खबर जो 2 रोज़ पहले सरफेस हुई उसने काफ़ी तहलका मचा के रख दिया और बड़ी ज़ेर बहस है, जहां पे पाकिस्तान में सियासी जमातें अब इस बात पर जोर दे रही हैं कि इस खबर के भी बेसिस पर पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ ने बहुत कुछ छुपाया और बहुत जो मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग की तरफ कहा जा रहा है कि ये इशारा कर रही है। ये खबर जो है वो बड़ी तहलका खेज़ है। इस पर मज़ीद इन्वेस्टिगेशंस होनी चाहिए और चाहे वो पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी हो, चाहे वो पाकिस्तान मुस्लिम लीग नवाज़ हो, इत्तेहादी हुकूमत की जानिब से बहुत दबाव डाला जा रहा है और साथ साथ इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान पर भी जोर डाला जा रहा है कि ये सब तमाम चीज़ें फ़ॉरेन फंडिंग केस से रिलेट करती है। ममनुआ फंडिंग केस जिसका ऑलरेडी पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ को सामना है और उसके महफूज फैसला सुनाने के लिए दीगर सियासी जमातों की जानिब से जोर डाला जा रहा है। और जो ये खबर थी फाइनेंशियल टाइम्स की, द स्ट्रेंज केस ऑफ द क्रिकेट मैच दैट हेल्प्ड फंड इमरान खान पॉलिटिकल राइज, इसके ऑथर साइमन क्लार्क, उनकी ये खबर थी और आई एम वेरी ऑनर्ड ही इज जॉइंड अस टुडे वाया स्काइप. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. I was just giving a brief intro on how your story, Financial Times, has created quite a stir in the political arena as well as in the media. And Simon Clark ke bare mein, he's written quite a lot of articles for the Wall Street Journal as well before moving to Financial Times. And his stories on the Abraj Group, which is founded by Arif Naqvi Sahab, जिनके हवाले से बहुत कुछ सामने मंजर नामे पे आता रहा है बड़े सिलसिले, और किस तरह से उनकी इमरान खान साहब के साथ कनेक्शन है। गुज़िश्ता रोज़ भी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही थी। हम आज बात करना चाहेंगे और हम ज़रा पूछते हैं कि किस तरह से ये पैसा पाकिस्तान की सियासी जमात के अकाउंट में गया है, किस तरह से लैंड किया है, और ये जो एक फंड रेजर इवेंट समझा जा रहा था वुटन T20 कप, इसकी सिग्निफिकेंस क्या थी, क्या इवेंट था ये, और किस तरह से पैसा पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ के अकाउंट में पहुंचा। साइमन, the first question would be regarding your story, of course, and the Wooten T20 Cup that you mentioned in your story, the significance of the event, perhaps, and maybe you could just tell us if this event was a fundraiser for a charity organization or a fundraiser for a political party in Pakistan.
So, in 2010, 2011, and 2012, Arif Naqvi hosted a cricket weekend at his country residence in Wotton, which is a village near Oxford in England. And the people who he invited to play cricket were asked to pay a fee, and they were told that the money would go towards charities. A number of the people who I spoke to who attended did not know which charities the money was going to. Now, the significance of the article which I published in the Financial Times on Friday is because I have seen the accounts of Wotton Cricket Limited, which is the company owned by Arif Naqvi that the participants in these cricket matches were asked to send the money to. And what the accounts of Wotton Cricket show is that in addition to Wotton Cricket receiving money from Pakistani citizens, this account was receiving millions from Abraj, which is the company that Arif founded. And it also received $2 million from Sheikh Nayan, who's a member of the royal family of Abu Dhabi. Now, after this money was received, this company, Wotton Cricket Limited, which was incorporated in the Cayman Islands, sent money to PTI, the political party of Imran Khan. Now, the Electoral Commission of Pakistan is investigating how PTI is funded. And earlier this year, the Election Commission published a report in which it said that PTI received $2.12 million from Wotton Cricket. Arif Naqvi gave a statement to the Election Commission of Pakistan, and he said that yes, Wotton Cricket provided $2.12 million to PTI, and all this money came from Pakistani citizens, according to the law. But what my story shows is that $1.3 million of that money did not come from Pakistani citizens. It came from Abraj, which is a company, and Abraj expensed that cost to another company called KES Power, which was Abraj's holding company through which it owned K Electric.
Right.
Then, in addition to this, we can see that Wootton Cricket received $2 million from Sheikh Nayan, and that Arif told his colleagues that $1.2 million of this money should also be sent to PTI.
$1.2 million of the $2 million amount that was given, that was donated by the Nayan family.
Yes. Now, that money was not sent directly to PTI. There's an email exchange between Arif and his colleagues about how they should transfer this money to PTI. And they send this $1.2 million to the account of a Pakistani businessman called Tariq Shafi and to a entity called the Insaf Trust.
Okay. So let me just clear this. The amount from the amount donated by the Nayan family, you said, was sent into the account of Tariq Shafi and Insaf Fund. Right.
And the emails from Abraj say that this money was intended for PTI.
Okay, so the email shows that the money was intended for the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf.
Yes.
Right, but and you believe that the amount which you were telling me was transferred this way through the account of Tariq Shafi and the Insaf Fund was again landing for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf.
Well, the article which I've reported shows that that was the intention of Arif Naqvi and his colleagues. In addition, as I said, $1.3 million of the money which went directly from Wootton Cricket to PTI was directly funded by Abraj. And this is a problem because the only people who can fund political parties in Pakistan are individuals. Companies cannot fund political parties, and foreigners cannot fund political parties in Pakistan.
Right, but Simon, did Nayan family donate the amount for the charity event, or did they know that the amount was ultimately being transferred to a political party's account?
So Sheikh Nayan has not responded to my multiple requests for comment. I know that he has received my questions, but he has not responded. So it's a good question you ask.
Right, but as you mentioned that Mr. Arif Naqvi, since he mentioned that Pakistani citizens were donating the amount, and like your story also says that there were more people involved in this other than Pakistani citizens, and that goes against the law even if you follow the Pakistan Political Parties Order 2002, and that bars any political party from receiving any funds from any citizens abroad.
The 2002 law doesn't just bar foreign citizens. It also bars companies. What my story shows is that, and this is very important to understand, is we have the clear money trail that $1.3 million of the $2.12 million that Wootton Cricket sent to PTI was from Abraj, from a company. Abraj was incorporated in the Cayman Islands. It was from a company, it was not from individuals. And Arif Naqvi's statement to the ECP says that all of that $2.12 million was from citizens. And what my reporting shows is that that is not true. $1.3 million came from Abraj.
So $1.3 million came from Abraj, which is Arif Naqvi's holding company. Simon, do you see any probability, or I mean, you've done investigations, so do your investigations suggest that there is a probability of any money laundering involved in this?
I can't answer that question because money laundering is an ambiguous term. What we know is that Arif said the $2.12 million which Wotton Cricket sent to PTI was from Pakistani citizens. But what I can tell you is that's not true. $1.3 million of that money came from a company, not from citizens of Pakistan. In addition, we have this money from Sheikh Nayan, $2 million going into Wotton Cricket from Sheikh Nayan, and Arif and his colleagues saying that they're going to send $1.2 million of that money for PTI through Tariq Shafi and the Insaf Trust.
Right. But
Tariq Shafi declined to comment to me, but Imran Khan answered my questions, and Imran Khan and PTI said that yes, Tariq Shafi is a donor to PTI, but it is for Tariq Shafi to say where he got money from that he donated to PTI. And Tariq Shafi will not answer my question. He's
declined to answer your question. Right, but also the fact that, what do you think, Simon, are the chances that this all may trigger a financial investigation by any of the British financial crime agency?
I don't know. I'll only talk about what I know.
But was it investigated before?
Well, the United States has criminally charged Arif Naqvi and 5 of his colleagues. And I have been told by people involved in that investigation that they are investigating the extent to which Arif and Abraj funded politicians in Pakistan. So I believe that the US authorities are looking into these issues.
Right. You've also mentioned in your story, Simon, regarding Mr. Arif Naqvi's intentions of having a political approval from the governments back in Pakistan in 2016, where you mentioned that he wanted to strike a deal to sell control of the power company K Electric to Chinese state-controlled Shanghai Electric Power. And this was to the tune of $1.77 billion. And it could not materialize. He authorized a $20 million payment that you've mentioned for Pakistani politicians to gain support of them, and could not materialize. But and you mentioned that the payments was allegedly intended for Nawaz Sharif and his brother. And you've also mentioned that the brothers have denied any knowledge of the matter. Would you like to elaborate on this?
Yeah, so in 2018, when I was at the Wall Street Journal with colleagues there, I reported that Arif and his colleagues at Abraj had emailed each other. They were talking about paying $20 million to Nawaz and Shehbaz Sharif, and they believed that this payment would help gain approval for the sale of K Electric to Shanghai Electric in China. Now, the brothers have said that they, through their spokespeople to me, that they know nothing about this, that they had no financial interactions with Arif and Abraj. There's no evidence the payment was actually made, but there is lots of evidence that Arif and his colleagues were planning to make this payment. And in fact, the US criminal charges against Arif and his colleagues, one of the charges listed is attempted bribery, and they cite this intended payment. So I broke that story in 2018. There is no evidence the payment was actually made.
So there is no evidence of whether any amount or the same amount was spent anywhere else in Pakistan?
So there's evidence that Arif and his colleagues were planning to make the payment of $20 million. There is no evidence that the payment was made, and there is no evidence that the Sharifs knew that this payment was being planned. and they deny any knowledge of it. So some people I've seen on Twitter have been saying in response to the article in the Financial Times on Friday, why haven't we written more about this intended payment? And the answer to that is because the article on Friday is about the new news. And the new news is about Wootton Cricket and how Wootton Cricket was funded and what Wootton Cricket did with the money. And Wootton Cricket, based on the documents and the evidence that I have, sent money to PTI. And so that's why we've written this article about PTI. This is the new news.
Right, but Simon, will there be a follow-up story regarding this, and also regarding the $20 million amount that you've mentioned, which has no evidence so far whether the amount was spent anywhere in Pakistan? Will there be a follow-up story from you? And regarding the Wootton Cricket as well?
Inshallah. If I
be...
get more information, then maybe I'll write another story. Now, the payment to the intended payment to the Sharif brothers is being scrutinized by US prosecutor. Now, I have been told that also Arif's funding of PTI is also being scrutinized by the US authorities. Now, the current situation is that Arif is living in London on bail. His extradition to the United States has been ordered so he can stand trial in New York. He says he's innocent. He is appealing against extradition. He doesn't want to go to New York. But if he loses his appeal, because he's currently appealing in the High Court in London against extradition, if he loses that appeal, if he goes to New York and he stands trial, I expect that these issues will be made public in court. That
right,
Arif's
Simon, we'd like to hold you right here. We have to take a short break, but I'd like you to continue right after a short break. Nazi, welcome back after the break. So we're talking to Simon Clark, who's the author of the recent story in Financial Times that has created a stir in Pakistan's political and overall arena that we're seeing in the media as well. Simon, before we went on a break, you were talking about how after the story now, and since you mentioned that there'll be a follow-up story as well, you were mentioning what do you expect out of this now?
Well, I think the next step is to see what the verdict of the Election Commission of Pakistan investigation into PTI's funding says. I believe that I had, in some ways, more information than them, because the ECP could see that Wootton Cricket sent $2.12 million to PTI. But I don't believe they could see where Wootton Cricket got that money from. So now they know, because they can read the article in the Financial Times. So I think the next step is just to see what the Election Commission says. They've been investigating this for almost 8 years. And people are expecting their verdict in the next few days or weeks. I think the bigger point here, and what's really important for everyone to remember, is that in a democracy like Pakistan or the United Kingdom or France or the United States, it's really important that there is transparency about how political parties are funded.
True.
And that is true for PTI, PMLN, Conservative Party and the Labour Party in the United Kingdom, or the Democrats, the Republicans in the United States. It is important that there is transparency on this issue. And it doesn't matter which party it is, all parties need to be transparent. And this is why, understandably, Pakistanis are very interested in this question of how are political parties in Pakistan funded. This is an important question for Pakistanis, equally important for British citizens about their political parties, French citizens in France, and Americans in the United States of America.
Right, but Simon, as I asked you before as well, whether you see any sort of angle of money laundering in the entire process and how the money was transferred, but you have a trail, you have a clear trail of how the money was transferred from the people who donated amounts, such as Nayan family and other citizens, and Mr. Arif Naqvi, like you mentioned, only stressed on the fact that the money was donated by Pakistani citizens, whereas you said that there are more players involved in this. So who could be who are the big players involved in this, if I may ask?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about things I don't know, and I'm not. Money laundering is a big term. It depends what you mean by money laundering. But what my article shows is that, well, one of the things my article shows is that Arif Naqvi's statement to the ECP says that the $2.12 million which Wootton Cricket sent to PTI was all from Pakistani citizens. My article shows that's not true.
That's not true.
$1.3 million of that money came from abroad. Now, whether you choose to call that money laundering or not is for you to decide. I'm going to be very careful about the terms that I use. In addition, I can show you, as reported in the article, that Wootton Cricket received $2 million from Sheikh Nayan, and that Arif and his colleagues said that they were sending $1.2 million of that money from the Sheikh to PTI. Now, if that's exactly what happened, that's a big problem, because that's not, as I understand it, not permitted by law in Pakistan.
Right. Your final comments on this, Simon, as you've said that you have enough material, you have some additional material on this as well, and could that be shared as well? I mean, if you're approached by the Election Commission of Pakistan?
I have spoken to the Election Commission. Before publishing the story, I asked them when are they going to publish their verdicts, and they didn't tell me. I'm open to have a conversation with them. I haven't actually spoken to them. I've exchanged messages with them. I mean, my job is journalism, and the information that I'm able to publish is the information that I'm able to share.
Absolutely.
So,
and the information that you've shared is based on facts, because a journalist has to investigate all the facts before he publishes the story. And the facts that have also been admitted by the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, which is the political party of Mr Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister. His party members have also been admitting that there's nothing new in the story. The money has been declared. That's their stance. My another question would be, were you also approached by any of the political parties in Pakistan, especially the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf?
Well, it's not true that there's nothing new. There is significant new information in these articles. Now, I understand that PTI will want to say this is not significant, and the other parties will want to say it's extremely significant. I don't want to get involved in the politics of Pakistan. I want to try and report accurate information in a fair way, so that Pakistani citizens can make their own choices. Now, I understand this is confusing and difficult. I have reported about how Arif Naqvi has tried to fund PMLN. I have now reported about how Arif Naqvi funded PTI. So I'm not choosing a side here. I'm just reporting the information that I can find.
Clearly, as a journalist. Please
Yeah,
go
I've been
on.
working on this story for 6 months. And, it's not enough just to get information. I have to verify it and then give everyone I write about an opportunity to comment. And PTI have responded to my questions, and I'm grateful to PTI for answering the question. Arif Naqvi, Tariq Shafi, Sheikh Nayan have not responded to the questions I asked them.
But PTI did answer your question.
Yes.
Did you speak to Mr. Imran Khan directly?
I sent him messages on WhatsApp directly, and I sent him emails, and I know that he received those. And then I spoke to a spokesperson for PTI who also told me that Imran Khan received my questions, and then I received a written statement from Imran Khan.
Could you elaborate the response from Mr. Imran Khan for our audience again?
Sure. Well, I mean, some of that response is in the article. We've reported some of his answers.
Absolutely.
He says, yes, PTI received $2.12 million from Button Cricket, but PTI and Imran Khan did not have any knowledge that that money came from abroad. He said that he thought that all the money was raised at a cricket
Event.
and he also said he had no knowledge that PTI had received money from Sheikh Nayan. And he said, yes, PTI received money from Tariq Shafi. And if, it's for Tariq Shafi to say where he got that money from. Now, is that a sufficient answer? In my opinion, it's important for political parties to understand the sources of their funding. And it's really important for political parties to manage their finances well. Because if a political party manages its finances well, then there's a better chance that they will manage the finances of the nation well. And if a political party manages its funds badly, or in a chaotic way with a lack of transparency, then it seems to me likely they might manage the finances of the nation in a way that's not great.
Right. But Simon, do you also feel that this could also be seen as deceiving the people who were donating the money for the charity event? This could also be deceiving those people who were donating the amount or the funds?
Yes. I spoke to some people who attended the cricket match in Wootton, and I said to them, did you know that Wootton Cricket was funding PTI? And they said they didn't know that, and they would be very angry if that was the case.
They didn't have any idea. They didn't know that their money went into the account of a political party in Pakistan.
They didn't know the money was going into Wootton Cricket, and that one of the most significant purposes of Wootton Cricket was funding PTI. And they were quite angry when I told them that. Because they were told it was going to charity. So yeah, there could be a number of deceptions.
Right,
happening.
but this could also be termed as illegal. It went against the laws in Pakistan and abroad as well. I mean, under the British laws as well, and it could be termed as morally wrong as well.
Yeah, you could say that. I'm going to be very careful on these issues. It's not my job to decide what's legal and what's illegal. But what I will tell you is that the law in Pakistan is very clear about the funding of political parties.
Right, but right now, the way that you've mentioned that the people who were donating the amount had no idea and they were pretty angry at that. So that could also be an illegal act.
Well, it's not. I'm a journalist. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a judge. I'll report the information that I know, which is what I've done. I'm trying very hard to do. This is not an easy job.
Right.
and I will leave it for others to make the decisions that you are asking me to express an opinion on.
Right, Simon. Simon, but like you said that Mr. Imran Khan sent you a response as well.
Yeah.
Will there be a follow-up question to Mr. Imran Khan from your side, asking whether because the way you said that he denied that he had no idea where the amount was coming in from, will there be a follow-up question from your side?
Well, what would you ask him?
I mean, would you be asking him? I mean, if I were in your position, I mean, I would really want to ask Mr. Imran Khan. I mean, if he had no idea whether he would want things to be investigated, and whether he would want to know whether the amount was transferred to the account of Insaf Fund or went into the account of Mr. Tariq Shafi, like you mentioned.
It's a fair question. I'm a freelance journalist. I'm not a staff reporter at the Financial Times. Again, I've been reporting on this story for 4.5 years. I mean, yes, I expect there will be another chance to ask questions to Imran Khan, and that would be a good question for me to ask, or other journalists to ask. There seems to be a lot of interest in Pakistan, so perhaps there are journalists in Pakistan who can follow up more easily than I can.
Right. Simon, one more question. I mean, you know, and you've mentioned Mr. Akbar S. Babar, who is the prime petitioner in this case. Did he approach you? Did he contact you?
No, I approached him. I think the first time I spoke to Akbar S. Babar was in 2019, because I was reporting about Arif and Abraj, and I was trying to find people who would know how Abraj invested or spent money. So I've been in contact with Akbar for a couple of years, and he seems to me to be a person of high integrity. It's his submission to the ECP that started the investigation. And as a consequence of his actions, the ECP published this report in January, which showed that Wootton Cricket was a funder of PTI. Now, when that report was made public, no one really could show who owned Wootton Cricket, but I knew there was a public document which listed Wootton Cricket as one of Arif Naqvi's companies. So I put that on Twitter so people could see that Wootton Cricket was Arif Naqvi. Then I approached my sources and I asked various sources, do you have any information on Wootton Cricket? And this is how I got the information, which is the source for this article about where Wootton Cricket is getting money from. Akbar Babar is someone who I speak to fairly regularly. He's someone who I think is trying to do the right thing for his country.
But I believe PTI, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, also has the intention of raising this matter and will consult their lawyers abroad as well. Since you've reported multiple times on the Abraj group, Simon, do you have more content and more material, and would you be reporting further on stuff that has Abraj group's involvement?
Yes, potentially. I don't have any immediate articles. This article has taken a lot of work. You know, I've been working on this for 6 months.
6 months, as you've mentioned, right?
I mean, but it is often me who's writing articles about Abraj, because it's very complicated. In order to write about this issue, I need to have a lot of access to sources and information, which is very complicated. And there aren't many journalists who understand this issue very well. I mean, there's me, and then there's Will Louch, who's the co-author of the book we wrote together, The Key Man. And we have a lot of sources and we have a lot of understanding of this very complicated issue. And there aren't many other journalists who are following it in great detail because it's very complicated and it's unfolding in different parts of the world. It's in Pakistan, in the UAE, in the UK, United States. So it's really hard. But, I'm committed and I understand how important this is to Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan is a great country and it deserves the truth just as much as any other country. It's a country that I have a big interest in. I lived in Pakistan in 1994. I was a volunteer teacher for 7 months. And I understand Pakistan deserves transparent information just as much as any other country in the world.
True.
So I'm putting a lot of effort into this journalism.
Right. Simon, but one more interesting question would be this wooden T20 cup, how it struck your attention?
Well, I knew from 2018 that Arif had a company called Wooten Cricket. And that's a fascinating name, isn't it? Like, I tell you, there's a company called Wooten Cricket. Arif has a huge house in the English countryside called Wooten. What could Wooten Cricket be for? It was always a bit of a mystery for me. And journalists like mysteries. They like to discover and explore mysteries. So I was always interested, like, what is Wooten Cricket? And then when it turns up in January as one of the main funders of PTI, I'm like, okay, now I understand what Wooden Cricket is. And I knew that Arif had these cricket matches at Wooten Place. And I knew that Imran Khan had gone to one of them. But I didn't know for sure that the purpose of the cricket matches was to raise funds for PTI. Until earlier this year, when I asked my sources, can you tell me what Wooden Cricket is for? And these sources did an investigation of various documents, and they shared these documents with me. And then I could see that Wooden Cricket was collecting money from the guests of the cricket match and from abroad and from Sheikh Nayab. And then it was sending money to Imran Khan's PTI. And I was like, wow, it's a big new part of the story. Yes, we knew that Arif funded PTI. We didn't know the source of the fund. And now we do. And this is why Pakistan is agitated about this story. Because rightly, Pakistanis want to know that their political parties are being funded according to the law.
Absolutely.
If Pakistani parties are not being funded according to the law, then that's a problem.
If there's a violation of law, that's a problem. That's true.
Exactly. It's the job of governments and parliaments to uphold and make laws, whether that's in Islamabad or London or Washington. And this is why this is an important issue. I understand it's confusing and people have conflicting emotions, but all we're trying to do here is get to the truth. And that's all we should try to do as journalists and citizens and politicians.
So, Simon, your source in the Election Commission of Pakistan, since you did mention that you had a couple of exchanges.
I don't have a source at the Election Commission of Pakistan. They're not a source.
But you were in contact. You had some exchanges with someone from the Election Commission of Pakistan.
I called a spokesperson and I asked for information, and they didn't give me it.
Right. But do you feel that because the verdict was reserved, the foreign funding case verdict was reserved last month, sometime in the third week of last month, and would perhaps be announced in the next couple of days. There's a lot of pressure from the political parties here as well. But do you feel that your story might now be, and the facts that you mentioned will be incorporated, will be factored in before deciding the case, before announcing the case, the reserved verdict?
I hope so. I don't know how the Election Commission works. They have not asked me for the sources of my information. I think that if they announce their verdict without considering what I have written, then their verdict might be incomplete, right? I mean, if I'm telling them that Wootton Cricket was funded by Abraj and Sheikh Nayan, and they publish their verdict without considering this information, then their verdict might not be complete. So I hope they're looking into it. They haven't contacted me since the article was published.
You never made any more contact with the spokesperson of the Election Commission of Pakistan?
Well, I made repeated efforts before the article was published on Friday. I sent them the article after it was published, but they didn't respond to me, and I haven't had any requests from them in the last 2 days.
Right. Two more questions and then we'll have to be wrapping up the program. Simon, the sources that you mentioned, of course, a journalist has the right to keep the sources, not to quote the sources, but the sources were from Pakistan that helped you work on the story and link the dots?
I'm not going to say anything about who the sources are because it's sensitive.
Right. Right, but the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the political party of Mr Imran Khan, their members have been stating this, and it's all on record now that that stuff and everything related to the accounts and the funds coming in were all investigated by the institutions in Pakistan, be it the Central Bank of Pakistan or the Federal Board of Revenue. Their accounts have been audited.
Well, okay, I'll say this. My sources are not Pakistanis. And the ECP has already raised multiple issues with the accuracy of PTI's statements about its foreign funding in the January report. And it is not true that the information in my article was already public. No one knew anything about the funding of Wootton Cricket before my article was made public. So there's a lot more to be understood.
Right. So have you come across the statement of a senior member from the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Mr Fawad Chaudhry, who's the former information minister of Pakistan as well? Have you come across this recent statement on the matter?
Yeah, I read about it in a couple of newspapers in Pakistan, yeah.
Would you like to say something on that?
Well, why don't you ask me a question and then I can answer it?
Do you think that it's a contradictory statement to what you've published in the article?
What did he say?
He said that there is nothing new in this article and everything's audited and everything's there, everything's been declared. The amount that has come into the accounts of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has been declared and there's nothing new in this.
Well, that's not true, that there's nothing new. There's a lot that's new. It is true that PTI accepts that $2.12 million of its funding came from Wootton Cricket. Arif Naqvi told the ECP that all of that money came from Pakistani citizens. My article shows that that is not true. $1.3 million of that money came from Abraj, which is a company, not a citizen. In addition, the article shows that Wootton Cricket received $2 million from Sheikh Nayan. No one knew this before Friday. And Arif and his colleagues at Abraj said they were sending $1.2 million of the Sheikh's money to PTI. This is new too. And this is not accounted for anywhere if it's true.
Not accounted for anywhere if it is true. Simon, my last question, since you mentioned that there will be a follow-up story with more revelations perhaps going forward.
I know, sorry, I'm I am continuing to report on the issue.
Right.
If I find new information, I will try to publish it. But at this moment in time, I don't have more to say than what I said on Friday, which was quite a lot.
Right, right. Simon, my last question is whether Mr. Arif Naqvi, I mean, this Bhutan T20 Cup event was, struck your attention and you investigated the matter. It took you 6 months. But are there more events that were organized by Mr. Arif Naqvi, charity events, and that can perhaps come into question?
Well, Wootton Cricket was collecting funds from all over the place. I don't believe that Sheikh Nayan went to a Wootton Cricket event, but he did send money to Wootton Cricket Limited.
Right.
So the issue is not just what were the events, it's like, where is the money coming from?
Where is the money coming in from? Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And where is Arif sending it?
Right. And we really hope the Commission of Pakistan looks into your story and the fact that you've reported. Thank you so much, Simon Clark, for joining us on the show. This was Simon Clark, journalist from the Financial Times, author of the recent story जिसने बड़ा तहलका मचा दिया पाकिस्तान में. प्रोग्राम की टीम और अलीना शिगरी को इजाज़त दीजिए. अल्लाह हाफ़िज़.